The rain fell hard against the glass walls of Blackwood Tower. From the top floor, the city looked peaceful. Millions of lights stretched into the distance. The rain fell hard against the glass walls of Blackwood Tower. From the top floor, the city looked peaceful. No one could see the storm that was about to destroy one of America's most powerful families. A woman stepped out of a black sedan. She wore a long charcoal coat, black leather gloves.
No jewelry, no makeup,
no expression. Security cameras captured her face for exactly 3 seconds before every screen inside the building suddenly went black. The guards frowned. What happened to the cameras? I don't know. Restart the system. Too late. The woman was already inside. Her name wasn't on any government database.
No fingerprints,
no medical history,
no social media.
Nothing. The world knew her as Victoria Kane. 5 years earlier, she had another name, Evelyn Carter, a name that officially belonged to a dead woman 5 years ago. The Carter family was the definition of the American dream. Richard Carter was an honest federal judge. His wife, Emily, was one of the country's most respected trauma surgeons. Their daughter, Evelyn, was a 22-year-old law student with an almost perfect GPA. Life wasn't perfect, but it was honest. Then Richard Carter accepted one case. The Blackwood Organization. Officially, they were billionaires. Privately, they controlled politicians, judges, police chiefs, drug routes, and billion-dollar money laundering operations across the country. Richard refused every bribe, every threat, every warning. 3 days before the verdict, someone knocked on the Carter family's front door. At exactly 2:17 a.m., Richard opened it. No one was there. Only a small gift box. Inside, a single chess queen. And a note. Resign or lose everything. Richard smiled. He closed the box.
5 years
The next morning,
Victoria
he walked
Kane
in one lesson. Revenge was never about pulling a trigger. Anyone could kill. Destroying someone's soul required patience. At exactly 8:15 a.m., she stood across the street from Blackwood Global Headquarters, a 72-story tower of steel and glass that dominated Manhattan's skyline. Employees rushed through the revolving doors with coffee cups in their hands, unaware that the woman watching them had spent years preparing for this exact morning. Victoria adjusted the sleeve of her tailored navy coat and glanced at her watch. 3, 2, 1. Every smartphone inside the lobby vibrated at the same time. A confidential financial report appeared on hundreds of screens before disappearing 10 seconds later. People exchanged confused looks. The report had revealed something impossible. Someone inside Blackwood Global had been stealing millions from the company. The panic began instantly. Exactly as Victoria had planned. She smiled. Not because anyone believed the report, but because they would begin accusing one another. Fear was contagious. Trust was fragile. And families destroyed themselves much faster than strangers ever could. High above the city, Adrian Blackwood slammed a folder onto his conference table. Who leaked those files? No one answered. The board members avoided eye contact. For the first time in years, America's most powerful business empire looked vulnerable. Adrian hated feeling vulnerable. At 34, he had inherited Blackwood Global after his father's retirement. The media called him a genius. Investors called him 48 hours later. The Carter family home exploded. The fire burned for 6 hours. Investigators found 3 bodies: Richard, Emily, and a body they believed belonged to Evelyn.
Case closed.
Family deceased. Justice buried. Except the 3rd body wasn't Evelyn. It belonged to another young woman, someone whose face had been destroyed in the fire. While the world attended Evelyn Carter's funeral, the real Evelyn lay unconscious inside an abandoned warehouse nearly 200 miles away. Someone had saved her. Someone powerful. Someone who expected something in return. When Evelyn finally opened her eyes, an old man sat quietly beside her bed. "You have 2 choices," he said. "You can spend the rest of your life crying for the dead, or become the reason monsters fear the dark." Evelyn stared at him. Tears rolled down her face. Then, for the first time since the fire, she smiled. "Teach me." The old man nodded. "You'll never be Evelyn Carter again." She looked at the flames dancing inside the fireplace. "Good. Because Evelyn died that night." The old man slid a new passport across the table. One name.
Victoria Kane.
The woman reached for it. Outside, thunder shook the sky.
Inside,
a legend was born. And 5 years later, she had returned. Not for revenge. Transformed a broken college student into something far more dangerous.
Not an assassin.
A strategist. Someone who could win wars without firing the first bullet. Meanwhile, inside Blackwood Tower, cybersecurity teams searched through millions of digital records. Nothing.
No fingerprints.
No IP address.
No malware. No trace.
It was as if the hacker had never existed. One young analyst quietly raised her hand. "Sir." Adrian looked at her impatiently. "What?" She swallowed nervously. "I don't think we're looking for a hacker." Silence filled the room. "What do you mean?" "I think someone wanted us to find those files." Adrian stared at her. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then he slowly smiled. "For the first time today, someone is actually thinking." He walked toward the giant windows overlooking Manhattan. If they wanted our attention, they just got it. Victoria left the coffee shop and disappeared into the crowd. People bumped into her without recognizing her. A businessman. A tourist. A mother pushing a stroller. Everyone saw an ordinary woman. No one saw the ghost who had returned from the dead. She stopped outside an old newspaper stand. The morning headline covered every front page. Blackwood stock drops after major data leak. Exactly what she wanted. Money wasn't the target. Confidence was. Because once investors stopped believing, the empire would begin collapsing from the inside. That evening, a black SUV quietly parked outside Victoria's apartment building. 2 men stepped out, professional, armed, watching every entrance. Victoria noticed them immediately from her 6th-floor window. She didn't panic. Instead, she switched off the lights, opened a hidden compartment beneath the floor, and removed an old photograph. Every smartphone inside the lobby vibrated at the same time. A confidential financial report appeared on hundreds of screens before disappearing 10 seconds later. People exchanged confused looks. The report had revealed something impossible. Someone inside Blackwood Global had been stealing millions from the company. The panic began instantly. Exactly as Victoria had planned. She smiled. Not because Anyone believed the report, but because they would begin accusing one another. Fear was contagious. Trust was fragile. And families destroyed themselves much faster than strangers ever could. High above the city, Adrian Blackwood slammed a folder onto his conference table. Who leaked those files? No one answered. The board members avoided eye contact. For the first time in years, America's most powerful business empire looked vulnerable. Adrian hated feeling vulnerable. At 34, he had inherited Blackwood Global after his father's retirement. The media called him a genius. Investors called him a visionary. His enemies called him untouchable. Only one description was true. He was dangerous. Find the hacker, Adrian ordered. I don't care if it costs $50 million. We find them today. Across town. Victoria entered a quiet coffee shop. She ordered black coffee. Nothing else. An elderly waiter placed the cup on her table. Without looking at her, he whispered, "You made the first move." Victoria stirred her coffee. They reacted exactly as expected. The old man nodded. They'll increase security. I want them to. They'll investigate everyone. I want that too. They'll become paranoid. Victoria finally looked up. That's when they'll start making mistakes. The old man smiled proudly. A smiling family standing together in front of a small white house. Her father, her mother, and herself. She traced their faces with her fingertips. I promised I'd come back, she whispered. And I keep my promises. She placed the photograph back inside the compartment, then opened another case. Inside lay a custom-built pistol. She checked the magazine, locked it back into place. Not because she planned to use it tonight, because preparation had kept her alive for 5 years. Outside, one of the men spoke into his earpiece. Target hasn't moved. The voice on the other end replied, Keep watching. Neither of them realized the woman they were hunting had already memorized their faces, their license plate, and the pattern of their surveillance. The hunt had begun, but they weren't hunting Victoria Kane. Victoria Kane was hunting them. The rain had stopped, but the city still smelled of wet concrete and gasoline. Victoria Kane stood across the street from Blackwood Tower, watching 2 black SUVs pull out of the underground garage. She had expected this. Adrian Blackwood never trusted technology after the data leak. Now he trusted people. That was his first mistake. Victoria slipped on a pair of sunglasses and blended into the morning crowd. One SUV carried Adrian's security team. The other carried a locked briefcase containing confidential financial records that could expose years of money laundering if they ever reached the authorities. But Victoria didn't want the briefcase. She wanted the man carrying it. His name was Daniel Mercer. For 15 years, Mercer had been Blackwood's fixer, the man who erased evidence, bribed witnesses, and made problems disappear. 5 years earlier, he had signed the order that declared Evelyn Carter officially dead. He never imagined the dead would a luxury hotel. Mercer stepped out, adjusting his expensive suit. He smiled at reporters waiting outside. To everyone else, he looked like a successful businessman. To Victoria, he was a murderer wearing a tailored jacket. She entered the hotel through the side entrance. Inside, a charity gala was beginning. Music echoed through the ballroom. Champagne glasses clinked. Politicians laughed beside celebrities. Mercer loved hiding behind expensive smiles. Victoria walked calmly through the crowd until she stood only a few feet away from him. He glanced at her for a second, then looked away. He didn't recognize her. She smiled. "Good," she whispered. "It should stay that way for now." An hour later, Mercer entered the men's lounge alone. The lights flickered once. Then the room fell silent. When the emergency lights came on, Victoria was standing behind him. Mercer froze. "Who are you?" She placed an old photograph on the marble sink. It showed the Carter family. Mercer's face turned pale. "No." "That's impossible." Victoria looked directly into his eyes. "Do you remember signing my death certificate?" His hands began to shake. You died."
No.
"You only buried my name." Mercer reached inside his jacket for a gun. Victoria was faster. With one precise strike, the weapon hit the floor. Mercer stumbled backward. He had spent years threatening people who couldn't fight back. Victoria wasn't one of them. She leaned close enough for him to hear every word. "I'm not here to kill you." His breathing became uneven. "Then, why are you here?" "To make you tell the truth." Outside the lounge, guests continued laughing, unaware that one of the Blackwood Empire's darkest secrets was about to unravel. Inside,
The woman
Mercer realized something wasn't seeking the woman standing revenge out of anger anymore. She had turned revenge into a strategy. And he was only the first piece to fall. To be continued.